Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch. I'm Chris Bianchi, and a developing situation. You're looking at footage from Sky 9 over C-470 and Jamaica Road, and what you're looking at there in the middle of your screen is a small plane that crashed there crash landed there a short while ago. Within the last, I believe, hour or so, we had this small plane crash. Now, fortunately, the two occupants aboard that plane that you're looking at there both sustained only minor injuries, despite the fact that that plane that you're looking at was on fire. South Metro Fire Rescue, I was kind of seeing this shot blocked out a little bit here, was on the scene fairly quickly. Both occupants of that plane have been transported to the hospital. No vehicles were involved in this, and again, based on the footage, and again, based on the very preliminary information that we have here, I would say it is a bit of a, it's rather surprising again that the two occupants maybe only sustained minor injuries, and perhaps a bit of good news within that. Now, certainly some bad news. C-470 is closed in both directions there in C-470 at Jamaica Road, and also the on-ramps from I-25 getting onto C-470 eastbound are currently closed. So obviously that is going to lead to some major issues out there on the roadways, especially now with it being slightly after 3 p.m. local time, and we are rapidly approaching the rush hour. But once again, just kind of recap what you are looking at there. A small plane crashed some point within the last hour, we believe, with two occupants that were aboard that plane. The plane was on fire. The two occupants of that plane were both transported to the hospital with what South Metro Fire Rescue is describing as minor injuries, but C-470 does remain closed in both directions, and the on-ramp from I-25 is closed as well. Now, again, we don't know much about the plane, where it was coming from or where it was going. Perhaps, of course, you've got Centennial Airport, I believe about 10 miles or so to the east, due east of where you're looking at here, but again, that is pure speculation on my part. Just be clear about that. But the northbound and southbound ramps, I should say, by the way, the northbound and southbound ramps from I-25 to 470 are closed, and E-470 is closed off at Jamaica Road. I should say it's actually at Peoria, right near Jamaica Road, where this closure is ongoing. Firefighters did, as of 13 minutes ago, South Metro Fire Rescue tweeted that firefighters had put out the fire that was that accompanied the burning aircraft and fuel. So this fire that's been put out there, again, you see the plane, you can in fact see some of the debris around it as well. The plane was on fire about 15-20 minutes ago, and that fire has been put out only within the last likely half hour or so. Paramedics evaluated the two occupants aboard the plane and safely exited. In fact, apparently both the people on board this plane, which again strikes me as a bit of a rather stunning development, they were both able to walk away from that plane. Perhaps the plane caught fire after it landed. Again, we just don't know that, so also, bear with us a little bit here. This is a developing situation, but again, this is what we do know at this point. The estimated time of reopening remains unknown at this point. So there's, again, I would anticipate if you do have rush hour plans, you're hoping to get to or from work, you might unfortunately have to plan on not having C-470 available in that area. And again, this is a fairly wide-ranging impact at this point. But because this is fairly close to the Centennial Airport, again, my suspicion is that this plane may have been coming to or from Centennial Airport. We don't know that, but again, this is fairly close to the Centennial Airport. So again, what we know at this point is fairly limited, but the good news is no vehicles were involved. I haven't mentioned that, but no vehicles were involved. The two occupants aboard the plane were both transported to the hospital with what South Metro Fire Rescue, again, fairly miraculously is describing as only minor injuries. They were able to walk away from the plane. Paramedics then evaluated them, and they were transported to the hospital after that. But again, pretty big impacts. When we're talking about C-470 here, closed off at Peoria Road. Obviously, that means we're going to be looking at some major impacts to the rush, and also the northbound and southbound on-ramps to eastbound C-470 from I-25 there are currently closed off. So you can't get onto E-470 from that direction. That could also lead to impacts for those of you hoping to get to DIA from the south. You're probably going to want to go north on 25 and take 225 instead of E-470. So again, just a bunch of wide-ranging impacts at this point. But the good news is, miraculously, it doesn't appear that anybody was seriously hurt by this plane crash. And we do believe this plane crash took place within the past hour and a half earlier on this afternoon. And we did get the first tweet in. I'm going to actually look this up here. But the first tweet from South Metro Fire Rescue came in around 32 minutes ago at about 2:37 p.m. Local time is when we got the first notification of this plane crash that had taken place at E-470 between Peoria and Jamaica Road, and that's when we first got the information about it. So again, presumably, and this is, again, to be clear, presumptive on my part, within the past hour and a half is when this plane crash took place. And South Metro Fire Rescue was on the scene fairly quickly, and they put out the fire, and you can tell there that the plane idly sitting in the median between the eastbound, westbound lanes there, that it was on fire, again, about 15-20 minutes ago, and that fire has since been put on out. You can see quite a few emergency vehicles are on the scene there tending to the situation, and I would imagine, again, more speculation on my part, and I do apologize if it does sound like I'm speculating a little bit here. It's because this is a breaking situation, and so there are going to be some things that need to be inferred here, but presumably South Metro Fire Rescue is going to have to remove and extract this plane before they can reopen the eastbound and westbound lanes here of C-470. Perhaps they can reopen one part of it. Again, I don't know, but I assume that they're going to have to remove this plane, which is going to be a process. You're talking about, even though it's a smaller plane, obviously, that's going to take some time. So again, I would emphasize to commuters here with the rush hour getting going here within the next hour or two, that you're going to want to plan around not having C-470 available. Again, we don't have an estimated time of reopening. I would presume that it's not going to be within the next few minutes. This is probably going to be a couple of hours away, would be my guess. Hopefully I'm wrong about that, but it does look like it's going to take some time to get those lanes back open again. As you can see, those lanes being shut on off in both directions as a result of that, and also the eastbound on-ramps from I-25 to get onto C-470 are closed on off. So just to kind of recap for those of you that may be just joining us with this breaking news situation, what we know at this point and what you are looking at from Sky 9, a plane crash within the last 60 to 90 minutes ago. Both occupants of the plane sustained minor injuries and were transported by South Metro Fire Rescue and paramedics to the hospital, and both the eastbound and westbound lanes of C-470 remain closed at this point. So that is what we do know at right now. No vehicles were involved in that crash, which, again, based on the look of what you're seeing here, strikes me as a miracle. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, you're talking about a plane here in the middle of the highway, in between the eastbound and westbound lanes, and the fact that no vehicles were involved, only 2 people sustained minor injuries. From the looks of it, you know, my thoughts first and foremost are gratitude for the fact that there was nobody seriously apparently hurt by this. So that is certainly some good news to pass along. The bad news is, as mentioned, is that there's going to be some obviously significant disruptions to the evening commute here within the next hour or two, because of the fact that both the eastbound and westbound lanes, and again, I'm purely speculating here, but I don't think it takes too much of a thinking cap to assume that it's going to be a little while that it will be reopened, because I cannot imagine that they're going to let a plane sitting in the middle of the highway stick around there and then they're able to reopen. Perhaps they'll be able to reopen a few lanes while they extract the plane. We don't know at this point, but keeping close tabs here on South Metro Fire Rescue and also what we may be looking at here over the next little while for more information. But at this point, what we do know is that plane crashed within the last hour and a half ago, and 2 people were transported to the hospital with what South Metro Fire Rescue is describing as minor injuries. So good news there. And just checking back in to see if there have been any updates from South Metro Fire Rescue. And it does not appear that we do have any sort of new information at this point, but there will be, actually do have some new information into us, as the South Metro Fire Rescue just tweeted within the last few minutes about the exact aircraft that was involved. It was a Cessna P210N single engine, so it was a single engine Cessna plane that had the capacity for 6 passengers, but there were 2 people on board. The plane was flying from the south towards the north and went down just south of Centennial Airport. So presumably, though that was not directly said in this tweet, because this plane was coming in from the south and approaching Centennial Airport, it was coming in to land. So the plane was flying from the south towards the north and went down just south of the Centennial Airport. So again, it looks like this plane was about to land at the airport and it went down where you are looking at right now. The cause of the accident remains under investigation according to South Metro Fire Rescue, and there will be a public information officer available to answer questions in the next few minutes. So we should get some more information about this accident coming up in the next little while, but in the meantime, again, what we do know does remain still fairly limited, though it does now appear, based on that tweet from South Metro Fire Rescue, that the plane was coming in to land at the Centennial Airport when it went down. The plane involved is a single-engine Cessna aircraft, so a small plane with a capacity of 6 passengers. There were 2 people on board this particular plane. Both were transported to the hospital with what are described as minor injuries, and C-470 remains closed in both directions and will likely remain closed for some time. I would imagine they're going to have to investigate the cause of the accident and remove the plane, which does not sound like a 10-minute process to me. It sounds like this is going to be for some time. So again, want to reemphasize that. Would plan for the next couple of hours if you're heading to DIA from the south, if you're again just using this area for rush hour purposes, for any sort of purposes here, that you will probably not be able to use this for at least the next couple of hours. But most importantly, no vehicles involved and only 2 minor injuries from the plane itself. So based on looks of it, based on the fact that there's a plane in the middle of C-470, literally in the middle of C-470, that does strike me as remarkably good news. So that's what we know at this point, and we'll keep you posted with the latest as it comes in. Again, we should get some more information probably within the next hour or so, but again, just to recap what we do know at this point, single-engine Cessna plane crashed as it was coming in to land at the Centennial Airport. What you're looking at is C-470 at approximately Peoria Street, where that plane crashed somewhere within the last hour to hour and a half. And as it did so, it caught fire. That fire was put out within the last half hour by South Metro Fire Rescue. 2 occupants of the plane were able to walk away from the crash. They were then transported to the hospital with what are being described as minor injuries. And again, no vehicles involved, but C-470 does remain closed in both directions, and the on-ramps from I-25 to the eastbound lanes of C-470 also closed due to the accident that you're looking at on your screen. 9 News at 4, we'll probably have more information on this, and also 9 News at 4-5, as well as at 9 and 10 tonight should have more information on all this. In the meantime, thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch, and have a good rest of your day. And again, what we want to pass along is no serious injuries from this plane crash that took place in the middle of C-470, but C-470 does remain closed in both directions at Peoria Street.
into Centennial Airport. We know that they had intentional evasive maneuvers, so the plane did not hit any other cars or anything like that. The plane did land in the island between westbound and eastbound E-470, just east of Jamaica. And amazingly, the two souls on board were able to self-extricate, walk out by themselves, and they were transported with minor injuries.
Any idea what caused them to crash?
Not at this time. There'll be an investigation through the NTSB.
And just 2 occupants on board?
2 souls on board, yeah.
Male, female?
Don't know at this time.
Any fires?
Yeah, so after the plane crashed, there was some jet fuel that did ignite. We were able to contain it to just that area. It did not spread.
Highway closed for a while?
Yes, so while they do the investigation, the highway, especially westbound E-470, is going to be closed until they can get that airplane removed.
Is that west or east?
Are we calling this westbound or southbound E-470? I always get this confused.
I always thought it was northbound.
So northbound, but it's technically westbound.
But it's really eastbound, is it not?
Circle Highway, that's
Yeah, so how do you want me to reference it? What is the right way?
depends if it's as the crow flies or
So I'll just say E4, here, I got it. So E-470 will be closed around I-25 on an off ramp in this area by Jamaica.
So that's on I-25 north and I-25 south. You're blocking all traffic.
On E-470.
Right, but you couldn't.
I don't know what they did on I-25. Yeah. All I know is this section is closed.
Anything else you can add?
I believe the takeaway today is sometimes we have to look for small miracles, and today is that small miracle where the pilot and the passenger on this plane were able to walk away.
Do you know it's a Cessna single engine?
So this one was a P210N, as in Nancy. It was a single engine 6-passenger aircraft.
And they were flying. I mean, like, this is a private aircraft.
I would imagine it is. I can't confirm that, but what we do know is that they were approaching, and they were approaching low altitude into Centennial. They did not make it.
Were they in touch with the tower at Centennial?
Yes,
And what was that communication? Do you know?
that they will have to speak to.
So there were cars on E-470 when it
Yeah,
happened.
so intentional evasive, hold on, is it invasive or evasive?
Invasive.
Invasive. So basically they intentionally avoided all of the cars in the area. So they didn't hit all of these cars that were going towards I-25 and away from I-25. They were able to avoid all of them. And I need to pronunciate.
I think it is. It is an invasion. It is.
I was like, it's evasive. See, as soon as you said it. All right, so can I redo that?
Yeah.
So what we do know as this plane was able, as it was low flying into Centennial Airport, they intentionally evaded any crashes and they avoided anyone else, and they were actually able to walk away.
Now you said that it's kind of like a miracle that they were able to walk away.
Absolutely. You think about how many, just the speed that they're approaching, everything like that, and for them to not only avoid all the other cars, but also to walk away. Yeah, and let me get my pronunciation.
you said it was on approach to
Yeah.